Another day in the garden, another day loving potatoes like my life depends on it. I've grown so many potatoes in so many different ways in my life that I even tried to live off of them 5 years ago, eating them in my front yard and losing about 12 pounds of muscle in the process. Didn't really work out, but I did grow a lot of potatoes, and that's what we're gonna show you how to do in today's video. But I need to summon a little help from a potato farmer friend of mine, Potato Ty.
Whoa.
Oh, that actually worked.
Kevin,
Ty.
I hear you need some help this year with your potatoes.
I need help and they need help. Let's show you guys how to grow the best crop of potatoes in your life. Ty, your family's grown billions of pounds of potatoes over 104 years, so why don't you take the first hack?
Yeah, I got this, Kev. This first hack could be the difference between feast or famine, and that's what variety of potato you're growing. You see, my family has been farming potatoes for 5 generations, and what we found is the best variety to grow for yield-wise is yellow potatoes. We grow a variety called Agata, and that allows us to grow 70,000 pounds of potatoes per acre, where other varieties, we only get around 30 to 40,000 pounds. This potato plant right here is a yellow potato, and if you want to maximize your yield, I suggest growing a variety called Agata, where it also maximizes the storage length as well. This is a really important potato hack if you're wanting to maximize the growth in your garden, but if you just want to be a lazy grower, this next potato hack is for you.
Like Ty said, if you want a method that grows potatoes pretty much on autopilot with no real work from you, this is the hack for you. You just need something to cover your potato up with. So there was a woman almost 100 years ago now named Ruth Stout. She had a book that came out called Ruth Stout's Easy No Work Garden, and she became famous for her very efficient way of growing. She didn't weed, she didn't water, she really didn't do almost anything. And specifically with potatoes, what she would do is she would walk around and she would just drop potatoes on the ground like this, and she would use hay, and she'd cover her potatoes up with about 2-3 feet of hay, just like this. Maybe she'd water it once or twice, but that's about it. And then that is it. She didn't bury the potatoes, she didn't hill the potatoes, she just let them grow like this. And we tested it. In fact, Jacques last season gave this a shot, and he had some beautiful, beautiful potatoes. And the craziest part is you just brush the straw aside and boom, the potatoes are growing almost in mid-air, not buried whatsoever. So try this tip out if you want a very easy way to grow potatoes this season, but if you want to boost your yields and speed up your growth, Ty's got the next one for you.
This next tip isn't a greenhouse, but it has the same effect as a greenhouse. This is row cover. So our family for the last 50 years has been growing the first potatoes in Canada, and it's all because of this stuff. We put this row cover over our potatoes right away once it's planted. In Canada, we're actually able to plant our potatoes in February and be one of the first ones to harvest in May because of this stuff. It acts as a greenhouse, allowing the potatoes to get a lot more heat and moisture so they grow a lot quicker. We actually grow potatoes in less than 80 days with this method, and have been the first ones in all of Canada every year to have fresh potatoes. But there's another hack that allows you to grow your potatoes a lot quicker.
So if you want to speed your potato sprouting up, you got to get into chitting yourself. I don't like the word either, guys. I don't know why. I think it's a British thing, so consider how you name things, guys. It's really just a potato sprouting itself, right? So this is what you're looking at. I've got the Kev potato here. This is an unchitted potato, right? Very handsome though. This one, however, has some things growing out of it. These are the potato sprouts coming out of the potato eyes. And so take a look at this, this, and this. This would be called like the rose side of the potato. It's where most of the small eyes are forming. And this is what comes out of those eyes. If I plant this potato or I plant this potato, this one's gonna grow a lot faster, but I gotta get it to this point first. So what you need to do is when you get your seed potatoes, they might even come chitted, but they may not. And if they don't, you wanna put them in a tray, something like this, maybe windowsill, indirect light, not super warm, not super cold, just kind of moderate temperatures, and you'll start to see these sprout. And this is a really good size, a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, any longer, and when you plant it, you could actually break the sprout off. And this, of course, is what's gonna be growing upwards to come out of the soil, and the potatoes will be kind of growing in between the seed potato and where it comes out of the soil. So this is very important, and it'll speed your growth of a potato up by a considerable amount of time. So always chit your potatoes, and if you want to multiply your harvest, well, my boy Ty has got you covered.
This next tip really does matter at every scale, whether it's commercial farming or gardening, and that's what size your seed needs to be when you plant it. You see, this is about 8 ounces of potatoes, and what our farm has found is that really for optimal yield, you want to be planting around 3 ounces. So what do you do when your potato seed is large? Well, it's actually a-okay to cut your potato seed in half. In fact, it's really encouraged. Say that this 8 ounces of potato seed might get you 7 pounds of potatoes, but if you split these up and plant them apart from each other, you'd get over 10 pounds of potatoes from this. So if you're like me and you don't like wasting potatoes, then you're gonna wanna cut your potato seed in half. And this next tip is gonna be the mecca for making sure that you can enjoy potatoes year-round.
If you're looking to maximize the yield of your spuds, another thing you can do is understand the type that you're growing. And I'm not talking yellow, red, or white. I'm talking about determinate and indeterminate potatoes. You know, when you hear those words as a gardener, you usually think tomatoes, but the truth is they're related to potatoes, and potatoes exhibit some of the same growing characteristics. So if you have a determinate potato, like say a Yukon Gold is a good example, beautiful classic potato, what that's gonna do is as you plant it in the ground, maybe say 6 inches deep, in about 70 to 90 days, all those potatoes are gonna kind of cluster right around where that seed potato was planted, and that's gonna be called an early crop or an early season potato. Oftentimes you can even harvest those as a new potato. But then you've got something like a russet Burbank, which would be what's called an indeterminate potato. What happens there is that season extends a bit, 90 to 120 days, and they will grow around the seed potato where it's planted, but also they will start to shoot a lot of growth off as the season extends upwards, which is why it's often recommended to hill your potatoes. But what I would say is definitely hill an indeterminate potato because it really needs it. That season and the way that it grows kind of requires soil to be around it. So if you're a container gardener, it actually is a really good idea to take like a 5-gallon bucket, drill some holes in it, throw a few inches of soil down, drop an indeterminate variety in, and as it grows, just dump a little bit of soil in it. At the end of the season, you'll have this big old bucket, and when you dump that out, there'll be potatoes covering it from top to bottom. So know your potato type, but no matter what type you're growing, there's a few things you can do to make sure that they last.
So this next hack is one of the most common mistakes that I see, and that is skin set. Normally, you need to make sure that your potato plant has been dead for 2 to 4 weeks for the skin to properly develop. However, our farm is actually very innovative on this. Oftentimes, we have to harvest our potatoes early, and we don't have time to wait for the potato to die. So our hack is actually cutting the potato plant and making it die. Our farm uses a massive machine to cut the tops of the potato plants and force them to die so the energy goes towards developing the potato skin and not growing up the potato plant. So for the home gardener, this tip will allow you to enjoy potatoes for the rest of the year, and this next tip for the rest of your life.
I want to grow potatoes for the rest of my life, and that means avoiding some of the more common problems that they can run into with a clever hack that actually you see at a farming level more than a gardener's level.
This is one of the most important things that we do as farmers, and that's disease prevention. And the best way to do that is cover cropping.
So I have a little 4x8 humble bed here, not 600 acres like Ty's farming on. And the thing is, cover cropping as a gardener sometimes seems a little extra, a little fancy, but it's actually really simple. If let's say I grew potatoes in this bed last season, Ty, I might cover crop it in the fall, let it kind of go. I might move my potatoes here next season, grow something else here, and I can just go back and forth over the season. As a gardener, that's probably good enough.
For sure, and as a farmer, we're always looking at more innovative and regenerative ways to make sure that we can grow a crop, and cover cropping is one of the best ways to reduce the chemicals that you're spraying on the potatoes to reduce diseases.
So you just don't have to worry about, is it safe, is it not? Grab a pack, sprinkle it on, you're good to go. So these are some awesome hacks to grow potatoes, but some things that you think are potato hacks aren't. So in this video, Ty and I bust some of the most commonly believed potato myths. Check it out. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.